Welcome to the Morgan Thomas Show. Thank you for joining us tonight. Morgan, Allen, and Houston are Clemson fans and graduates. Each show, the guys will give you their authentic opinion on the biggest Clemson sports topics. You can follow them on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search for at the Morgan Thomas Show. You can also listen to them on 105.5 FM The Roar. Subscribe to the YouTube channel to stay up to date on all of Morgan's exclusive Clemson content he puts out every single week. Let's get this party started. Now here's Morgan Thomas.
What's up, everybody? It's Morgan Thomas here, back again, another Thursday night, 7 p.m. I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for getting in and being a part of the show tonight. I'm looking forward to you joining in and being a part of this show. Again, this is every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, till as long as we can go. We talk about all things Clemson athletics, starting with Clemson football. But today, really, we're starting with Clemson baseball because, as you know, this weekend is big time for Clemson baseball as they get ready to start the season. And before I get my guest host in, I wanted to give you a shout out and say thank you so much for getting in. If you haven't already, make sure you get in on YouTube and say hello in the chat. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you want to talk about. And I appreciate you jumping in. Already got Kevron in. Thank you so much, Kevron. And John Sarian, also thank you for getting in and appreciate the love and support right now. If you haven't already, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on everything I put out every single week. You know, Clemson recruiting, Clemson football, Clemson baseball, softball, anything in between. Just make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. I know it's the off season, so we're kind of taking a nap off, but it's not the off season for baseball because it's just getting started. Let me bring in my special co-host. It's not Mr. Houston Burnett because he just had a baby, and so he's not here tonight. It's not Big Allen Adams because I have no idea why he's not here. It makes no sense to me, but he is not here. But who is here is Coach Corey Welch. Thank you so much, Coach, for getting in and being a part of the show tonight.
Appreciate it, Morgan. It's always been a bucket list item for me to get on the Morgan Thomas Show. So,
well, I appreciate you being on, and we're going to talk about some Clemson baseball. Tell the fans out there who may not know about you, what you do, why you are familiar with Clemson baseball. If they haven't seen you did a video, you did a series about Clemson baseball with Big Allen Adams a couple of years ago. But remind people why you're important to know in the baseball world. Maybe you don't think you're important, but why are you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say important, but, you know, I am fortunate enough to do a lot of things with baseball. I help run a website called thediamondprospects.com. It kind of covers South Carolina high school baseball. And then on the summer circuit, I work with a travel organization called the Canes, which, as you can see, I'm at a baseball field right now, jumping out of a 10U practice. But, you know, a lot of the guys that are playing at Clemson and at various colleges throughout the country, you know, I've been lucky enough to coach or have worked with or been connected to. So,
yeah, well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you getting in. Like I said, you've had a couple players through the years come in and be a part of your program. Is there anybody notable that you've had that you've been able to coach or at least see through your program that Clemson fans would know?
Yeah, that have played with us, obviously. Caden Grice, Rocco Reed, Ty Olenchuk, Tristan Smith, who we'll talk about a little bit, another freshman, Nathan Hall, and the list. I mean, we're lucky. We're very familiar with a lot of those guys, so, and played against the others.
Well, again, I thank you for being a part of the show. Hey, let's get started and just get into Clemson baseball discussion. Starting out with this weekend, you know that the Clemson Tigers open up their season against Binghamton, and this is the 126th season for the Tigers. It's a 3-game home series. Now, for me, I mentioned this on the radio this morning. It's going to be difficult for me because I really enjoy that softball team, as you know, but the problem is they play at the same days and very close time periods, so you'll kind of have to stay at one game for an hour and then go to the next game and vice versa throughout the the weekend. If you can do that, do that. I definitely say try both. Now, some people tell me the trick you can do is, since baseball is on the radio, you can go watch softball in person and listen to baseball on your headphones or on your phone on the app. So, that might be a trick that you can do if you're a diehard fan and you want to get both in. But again, 3-game series this weekend. It's a blank slate. Both teams are 0-0 overall record. We finally found out who the starting pitchers are. I won't get into them. I won't ask you any questions yet. But the starting pitchers right now are Ryan Ammons Friday, Austin Gordon Saturday, and Jay Dill Sunday. Been kind of a surprise for a lot of the fans out there. They weren't really expecting that 3, but we will get into it as the show goes on. Clemson last year had a record 35-23 overall and was 13-16 in the ACC in 2022. So had a 3 games under 500 in the ACC. Clemson has 18 of its first 21 games at home. So to me, this year starts out pretty good when you're at home most of the time. But one thing they're having to do is kind of learn a new head coach, and that is Eric Bakich. And I have a little graphic that I'm going to throw up here on the screen. Eric Bakich, overall, 398 wins and 314 losses. And he was the 25th. He was a Big Ten champion for Michigan in 2015 and 2022, just last season. So he decided to leave Michigan and his successful team and come down to Clemson. Why do you think that's such a big deal for him to come to Clemson and for Tiger fans to be excited about Eric Bakich?
I mean, I think it's a place where he coached at under Coach Leggett, and I just now realized as you put that up, he's going for a pretty big milestone this weekend, hopefully for Clemson fans, his career win number 400. So I think that's something to keep note of and keep eyes on this weekend. But I mean, Coach Bakich, it's going to be very interesting, kind of moving forward with these players. It was, like you talked about, a totally new system. And from what I know from and things like that, from articles, he's kind of mentioned that, the talent from the shoulders down has been really impressive. And the thing that that's going to be a real strength for this club is like just the mental side of what they're doing. That's one thing that he's really strong at and has a great staff in place. And I think you're going to see a lot of positive things sooner than later.
So when you're a new head coach coming into something, and since you have experience being a coach, how do you do that? I mean, is it one of these one-on-one things where you just have to go through the roster and see who you like and who you kind of like develop those one-on-one relationships more than just trying to change everything altogether? Like, how would you, if you were in his role, take on this? To me, it seems like a pretty big task.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough task, and especially, like a lot of the roster that he has now is from the previous coaching staff. So it's not like, you can come in and do it your way. But he's done a really good job. I'm confident that he has in doing that. And like we'll talk about later on, I think one thing that's kind of interesting is there's a couple of Michigan transfers on the roster too, which I think is a huge part for those players that may not know, hey, why are we doing this? Why is it different from the past and things like that? They can kind of help guide them. So I think that's a big key as well. And Coach Schnabel was from the Michigan staff as well.
So one of the questions, and Big Al kind of gave me some questions here to go through with you because, I'm still getting into baseball. To be honest with you, I'm more of a softball guy. I love the Lady Tigers over there, and they're obviously great. And I will talk about them before this show is over. But I wanted to talk about these freshmen that are out there, and Al wanted to talk about them as well. You mentioned Tristan Smith, number 18 for the Tigers this season. Perfect Game has him as the 6th best freshman in the nation and the best ACC freshman in the conference. So to me, you're saying that he is one of these guys to look out for. If you're a Clemson fan, you're not familiar with Tristan Smith, what position does he play and why is he important to watch out for?
Yeah, he's going to be a big piece kind of moving forward. He didn't crack the weekend rotation, but as a true freshman, that's tough to do. I've been fortunate enough to have a good relationship with Tristan. I've helped him along the way in high school and thing, but I mean, he's going to be a big piece. Left-handed pitcher, has been up to 96 with good breaking ball, good changeup. So he's and you'll see him, and the fans will once the game starts. He does not look like physically like your typical freshman that comes in. So hopefully we get a chance to at least see him this weekend, maybe get his feet wet, and then, kind of moving forward, I really expect him to be a big piece of this staff.
So Tristan Smith, number 18, left-handed pitcher, 6'2", 200-pound freshman. So like you said, obviously has that measurable there from Boiling Springs High School. He's going to be a Parks and Recreation Tourism Management guy for Clemson. He's a first-year freshman, doesn't have any stats right now. Before Clemson, number 24 player, number 6 left-hander in the nation by perfect game, number 2 player, and number 1 left-hander in South Carolina as well. Man, big time left-handed pitcher there. I'm excited to see him more this season and see how everything shakes out. But again, like you said, I don't want to give a freshman too much, expectations because they still have to, learn the college game and get up to speed. How hard is it for a pitcher? You being a pitcher yourself, you played at Anderson University, Anderson College, I believe, when you first started there, but you were a left-handed pitcher yourself. So how hard is it to make that transition from high school to college? I'm assuming nowadays it's really not so much high school to college. It's more like travel ball, like what you do to college.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like high school is a big piece of it. One thing that is, I mean, it's the first time he gets on the field, it's going to be the toughest lineup he's ever faced in his life, regardless of his opponent. It's just the overall speed of the game, the depth of the lineup that he's facing. And so you got a lot of that going on, like facing your most difficult lineup and things like that. And then you're going to get thrown in Doug Kingsmore Stadium with thousands of fans there too. So it's one of those things that I feel like sometimes people kind of forget that, if that makes sense, like how much you have to absorb at one time. So it would be a tough call to get him, right away, but he's gonna be fine. But yeah, there's definitely some challenges. He's gonna be a little more successful than I was for sure. His skill set is much higher.
Go follow Tristan Smith at tristansmith.8 on Instagram, at TristanS2022 over on Twitter. Now, you had 2 guys listed here. Who's the second freshman that you think fans should watch out for?
Yeah, Cam Canarella. He's from Hartsville, South Carolina, played at Hartsville High School this past year. His team was state runner-up in the state championship, was a big piece of it. 2 years ago as a junior, he was South Carolina Player of the Year. He can play a lot of different positions. He won't pitch in college. He did get on the bump and throw in high school, but left-handed hitter, can really handle the barrel well. I've heard that he's had a great, off season going into this year. So I've been fortunate enough with in my line of work to have watched Cam for a couple of years now, and I think he's a guy that is going to definitely contribute a lot sooner than later, which is going to be impressive because, as we'll get into later, it's a pretty veteran club compared to what we talked to just a couple of years ago. So.
Again, first-year freshman, number 447 freshman in the nation by perfect game, number 96 ACC freshman this year, but also 125th shortstop in the nation and the 12th best player in South Carolina and the 4th best shortstop in South Carolina. So do you feel like he kind of tees up more for shortstop? I know you mentioned he had some pitching experience. They have him listed as infield, outfield, so to me that seems kind of try to find a place for him right now.
Yeah. I think, if he hits, he's going to be in the lineup. I don't think you'll ever see him on the mound, but, he might play some third, some second, can jump around, play, left field and things like that. So his versatility, I think, is what really may help him.
Now, before we get on to the next subject, which we'll be talking about the player who you feel like is going to or should make the biggest jump in the season, make sure you get in on the chat. Kevron, John, Joey, Nick, and Tiggs are all in right now. And been in on the chat asking about how far the team's going to go, saying hello to both of us. So thank you so much for getting in and being a part of the show tonight. I know it's the off season and everybody loves football, but hey, the baseball team's got some excitement around it as well. And so we wanted to show them some love this afternoon. Again, without our other co-hosts, but we got a special one here in Coach Corey Welch, a guy who's very familiar with the travel ball scene, and a lot of the players have come through his program that are on the Clemson staff, so are on the Clemson roster. So we appreciate everybody getting in. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so that you can help this video out with the algorithm, as you know how it goes. The more likes, the more thumbs up, the more Clemson fans will see it and then be able to enjoy it with you. So I appreciate that. Continuing on to the next subject, which is kind of what I teased before, but who do you feel like is going to be the guy that needs to make the biggest jump or will make the biggest jump? The graphic's already up there, so I kind of teased it, but already gave it away. So who is that guy? Tell me about number 31.
Yeah, I mean, Caden Grice, he was a big piece of the team last year, but I mean, I really expect him to really take it up another notch this coming year. You're going to see him, hopefully, possibly a little more on the mound this year as well, but the power numbers kind of speak for themselves. Last year, he did tally up quite a number of strikeouts, but you look at that with another year under his belt, that'll slow the game down for him. And from a power standpoint, I mean, I've only seen him practice briefly, but I mean, it's pretty impressive that he can drive the ball to, over the batting cages in the Cajun Cafe, but at the same time, he can park it in the left field bleachers too. So, I mean, I think he's really going to be a guy that we're going to see that pitchers really don't want no part of this spring.
Now, I have the career stats for him batting and pitching: 27 home runs, a 277 batting average, 390 on-base percentage, 528 slugging. And on the pitching side, not as much stats there. He's 2 wins, 1 loss, 5.63 ERA, 21 strikeouts with 16 innings pitched. According to ClemsonTigers.com, junior left-hander, first baseman. Now, I know he played the outfield, so is he moving kind of more permanently to first base here, or do you feel also he's going to get some more experienced pitcher, or is it really just first base for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to guess, I think if they're going to rely on him more from a pitching standpoint, I think he's going to play more first base just to kind of preserve the arm and things like that. You kind of look at his pitching stats, and it is a little skewed, but I mean, being a two-way player at this level is very difficult. I mean, I know you're a good big football guy, but kind of think about it. You don't see guys on Saturdays at the college level playing offense and defense. So if you're a pitcher and a position player, it's kind of that responsibility. But if somebody's swinging a hot bat and they need to get a guy that's primarily a first baseman, I mean, he does have that versatility to slide out to the outfield to get that guy in or whatever it may be. So a lot of different options there.
Now, I got Wow C over in the chat. He's saying, can we get a projected lineup? Now, I'm obviously feeling like Caden Grice is going to be first base. And I'm trying to look back at Jason Priester at 7 o'clock. He's got a video coming out as well. And he and I talked about it recently. And I'm going to look and see if I can't find. So I had down here, all right, this is my list. And he said he's not really sure, but, he didn't think it was bad. But here's my list. Okay, so I got Cooper Ingle. Now he's coming off of an injury. He's our favorite guy here on the show. He's watched the show a couple of times. So Cooper Ingle at catcher, as long as he's healthy, and then Caden Grice first base, Blackwell second base, Wright third base, Bertram shortstop, Corbett left field, Taylor center field, and Ferry right field. Now, I guessed Ammons as the pitcher, and we will get into that in the next subject. But as far as that lineup of the infield and outfield, you feel like that's pretty good? Now, I'll say this. Eric Bakich came out about a week or two ago and said he thinks about 8 guys could play outfield right now. So, it could be any combination if you say you got 8 guys.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too, is there's just so much these guys are so experienced on this team. Like Ferry, he's been there. I think this is his 5th year. You got Tristan Becerra, who could be an outfielder, Nathan Hall, like Canarella, a name that we haven't even mentioned yet. So, like Coach Backus said, there's 7 or 8 guys. But if you look at that lineup, Corbett played infield last year and is moving to the outfield because of the Bertram addition. But, if you look at that, there's just so many options. And, it's a 50-plus game season. You got to have – if you go into a college baseball season knowing that you only got 9 players, it's going to be tough. But that's definitely going to be a strength of this team. And then kind of on Engel, I know like you mentioned earlier, he's had an arm injury. There's another kid, a freshman, Jacob Jarrell, that I've seen some stuff on. He's from South Carolina as well. Went to P27 Academy in Columbia. He could see some time behind the plate as well, just to make sure that the Engel's arm is fresh. So.
Well, thank you so much for getting in on the chat and continuing with the questions. We got more people jumping in. Tiger Paul 1979 is in. Thank you for getting in. He actually says, Corey, he's an upgrade to Allen and Houston, LOL. So, hey, we got an upgrade here. Big time. I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I'm not the baseball expert. Obviously, I'm a Braves fan, and I watch the Braves here and there when they come on TV, even though I don't have Bally. But when I can get them on the national networks, I'll watch them. And I try to keep up with Major League Baseball from here time to time. But now that I'm on the show with Mickey Plyler every Thursday, I'm going to have to catch up with baseball because he's a big baseball fan. He had coaches on, all last season, and I'm sure he's going to continue to try to get Eric Bakich on, which, by the way, every time Eric Bakich called in, he was the nicest guy. Like, before during the commercial break, I get on the horn and I call whoever, Mickey has lined up for me. And usually they're all really nice people, but Eric Bakich just seemed like that friendly guy who was like, hey, Morgan, how you doing? You having a good week? Like, he doesn't need to ask me any of those questions, but I'm sure he's got a lot of things going on, but he just has that, friendliness about him that I think comes off really well and may resonate with the fans really well. The fans that are familiar with Dabo Swinney. Now, I'm not saying he's a Dabo Swinney by any means, but he definitely seems like a pretty friendly guy. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Tiger Paul gets in, says, have Corey tell us about Tristan Smith. Well, Tiger Paul, you were like 5 minutes too late on that one. 5 minutes too. He was literally our first topic of the night. So Tiger Paul, you're going to have to go back. You're going to have to go. We're going to do some cliff notes on that one. You're going to have to go back and watch the replay on that. And Tiggs gets in now. So now we got some questions. This is what I appreciate. And while you're getting the questions, make sure you hit the like button to help us out as well. But Tiggs gets in and says, do we have any big hitters on the team? And who has the biggest bat? I got to think Caden Grice is one of those guys, right? I'm looking at his bio here, and it says he's one of the top power hitters. So I got to think he's the guy, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think Caden Grice, and we touched on Cooper Engel. He's kind of a smaller guy in stature, but he's got a big swing as well. So I think those will be two of the guys that you really see that'll put up some power numbers all through the lineup. But those two definitely stick out.
Well, we had some more questions about like the lineup and everything, and part of that lineup involves the pitching rotation. And I took a graphic from my friends over at Nachos and Analysis and the pitching rotation. I thought they did a really good graphic. So instead of me making my own, I just stole theirs. So guys, Drew, I'm sorry I stole your graphic, but the rotation came out today, and it's going to be I got multiple 21s there. Obviously, everybody's not 21, so I didn't change the number. Sorry about that. I messed my part of the graphic up. So Nachos and Analysis did great, but Ryan Ammons, 21, Austin Gordon, he's going to be on Saturday, and Jay Dill is going to be on Sunday. Obviously not all 21. I will get you their numbers as I go through, but let's start with Ryan Ammons. He's a left-handed pitcher, 6 foot, 205, redshirt junior, a left-handed batter, left-handed thrower, who is a 3-time ACC All-Academic Honor Roll member and was the closer in 2022. So is this normal? Do you normally go from like a closer position to a Friday night starter?
No, that's kind of rare. And one thing Coach Backett touched on Mickey's show earlier the other day is all these guys have been starters in the past. So it's not like, you know, hey, he's never started a game. I watched Ryan all through high school and lucky enough to get to throw with him some. Obviously, he's from Wren High School, was a starter there. I think it's a big move. It's a big testament to the work that he's put in, you know, throughout the offseason last year, closing, you know, coming in, getting 3 to 6 outs, whatever it may be. But he's proven to this coaching staff that he has the stuff and the motor to go through a lineup 2 to 3 times. Just from the outside looking in, I mean, he's a kid that's, I'm sure, that's well respected in the clubhouse. Always, it'll be interesting to see what he does on the days he's not pitching. I mean, he's just a character. But I mean, for them to give him the ball on Friday means that they believe that he's the guy. So. But, I mean, for them to give him the ball on Friday means that they believe that he's the guy.
Closer in 2022, 31.2 innings pitched over 34 relief appearances in 3 seasons. He has a 1-2 overall record with 8 saves and a 4.55 ERA, allowing 24 hits, opponent batting average of 205, 20 walks, 49 strikeouts. So is he more of like, you know, I'm a big Braves guy, like I said. So is he more of a John Smoltz, a Tom Glavine, a Greg Maddux? Like what type of comparable guy maybe that may, I'm not saying he has that expectation of being an MLB player, but
it's kind of interesting. It's a little bit of a mix of both. Like he has command, which I think this pitching staff as a whole, you're really going to see that their ability to throw strikes, that's been really ingrained into them this offseason. But I would say, I guess, that maybe a modern day Glavine, just because of the velocity. I mean, the pitching velocity in the game has really increased. But at the same time, Glavine's just more of your cool cucumber, like just kind of just, you know, it looked like he was just strolling in the park when he was pitching. Ammons exerts a little more effort in his delivery, but that can be deceptive as well. So it's going to be fun to watch.
All right, let's continue down through the list. Number 56, not number 21. All right, so just in case anybody's wondering about that, number 56 will be Austin Gordon. He's a right-handed pitcher. Man, tall guy, 6'4", 200 pounds, sophomore from Myrtle Beach High School, majoring in sports communication. Saw limited action in the first half of last season, but became one of the team's top relievers late in the season. Number 40 sophomore in the nation, according to Perfect Game, 14th ACC prospect for 2024 draft. This coming next year's draft. So, what's your thoughts on Austin Gordon being on Saturday now?
Nah. I mean, I think you're looking for the guy that gives you the best chance to win game 2. But it'll be, you know, for your Braves comp there, Morgan, I'd probably go Kevin Millwood for Austin. He's not in stature, but just in how he pitches. Millwood was a bigger guy, but I mean, Gordon's a tall, long, lanky kid. He's got a mid-90s fastball, can really spin the breaking ball as well. So it shows me that they're really impressed with the jumps he's made from last year to this year. It's a staff that's got a lot of experience, but you're not seeing the names that that were starting games last year. So that's telling me that these guys have made big jumps this offseason. Names that were starting games last year. So that's telling me these guys have made big jumps this offseason.
And then last on that list is a Sunday guy, Jay Dill. I think when I sent that to Alan in the message board or online, he was like, I really wasn't expecting that. I think everybody was expecting Ammons, but Austin Gordon and Jay Dill. Jay Dill is actually number 35, by the way, not 21, 35. Right-handed pitcher. I just got done bragging about Austin Gordon. This guy is 6'5", 250 pounds, from Baylor School. High school in Dayton, Tennessee. Sophomore right-hander, was one of the team's top long relievers in 2022, number 93 overall sophomore in the nation by perfect game. So this guy is another reliever turned now starting guy. Is this still experimental, though? I mean, or is these guys the guys that typically will stick through all season?
I mean, these are the guys that I feel like they're saying that have earned these opportunities early on in the year. I've watched Dill a little bit. I mean, it's really explosive stuff. If he's around the strike zone, I mean, that is a tough Sunday draw for sure for the other team. But yeah, I mean, it could change. You know, I mean, you could if they're not pitching well, it's just trying to figure out the puzzle pieces, if you say, as far as what works and what doesn't. If these three guys they start every week, every Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the entire year, I mean, you're looking at a great season. That means you're staying away from injuries. I mean, they're giving you quality starts. But I mean, that had to be a tough decision to go with those three, because you got Clayton, Hoffman, guys that have experience. Jackson Lindley has a ton of experience. Rocco Reed, Tristan Smith, Casey Talent. I mean, all those guys, Caden Grice. I mean, there's a ton of options that they could have gone with. I mean, you'll have midweek opportunities and things like that. I mean, you'll have midweek opportunities and things like that.
Tiggs gets in and says, smash that like, y'all. I really appreciate it. If you're still watching over on YouTube, thank you so much for getting in. And make sure to hit the like button, again, to help the algorithm. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on all the videos we put out. Continuing on with the discussion is more talk about the team and what to expect going into this season. Again, Binghamton they got 4 p.m. on Friday. That's on ACC NX. 2 p.m. on Saturday, and then a noon game on Sunday. The Tigers right now are picked to finish 5th in the ACC Atlantic Division in a vote by the 14 ACC coaches. Clemson is 8-5 on February 17th, 15-1 on February 18th, and 10-5 on February 19th. So they have an overall winning record to start the season out. But when you look at it, I mean, it looks like to me, when I look at like the ratings of the two teams, this should be a series that kind of sets the tone, gets everybody, gets those preseason jitters out of the way, kind of gets everybody warmed up to the season. To me, they should beat Binghamton and maybe sweep them. I'm going to say they should win at 2 out of 3. They should win maybe even 3 out of 3. Binghamton is led by 31st year head coach Tom Sinicki, who was a player at Western Carolina under Jack Leggett in 1987 and 88. So they have some ties there. So there's some familiarity between the two coaching staffs here. But what should Clemson fans expect?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's your expectation as a Clemson baseball fan. I mean, you should win every series, or go from there. One thing I heard earlier this week though about Binghamton is, I mean, they were in an NCAA tournament last year. I believe I heard this on Mickey's show that I thought was interesting. They bring back their entire weekend rotation from last year, and I believe Coach Backett said 7 of their 9 starters. So it's an experienced club, but like you said, I mean, we expect the Tigers, your goal is to win every series in baseball. I mean, if you sweep, that's a huge bonus. But if you win 2 out of 3 of every game you play, like you're going to win a national championship. So that's really what you're striving for. Like you're going to win a national championship. So that's really what you're striving for.
We'll talk about the expectations continuing, especially going into the postseason as we keep going. This is Coach Corey Welch, travel ball guy, knows a lot about the Clemson staff.
I'm at Lakeside Park they're practicing 10U, my son's travel team and stuff like that. So, yeah, here in Greenville. A little different setting. Travel team and stuff like that. So, yeah, here in Greenville. A little different setting.
Well, I appreciate you getting on and being a part of the show. One thing that you mentioned is strengths and weaknesses, and I threw up a guy there that everybody's excited about. It's a baseball player, but also a football player. We may not have him for very long because he's one of those guys that's expected to go to the MLB, put off the MLB to play for Clemson. Will Taylor, number 16. Perfect Game has him as the 24th best sophomore in the nation and the 7th best player in the ACC to go into the draft coming up for 2024. So obviously he had that ACL tear coming off of that. So, how do you feel like he impacts now? To me, I put on the list.
Oh, I 100% agree. He's going to be definitely in the mix. I know he had maybe some type of kind of nagging injury, so I don't know if you'll see him every day out of the gate. But he's another one from Dutch Fork High School, won a state championship there in football. He's an exciting player, can really go get the ball in the outfield. And like we talked about earlier with the power numbers, he's a guy that could actually do that too. I remember a game I covered for him in high school. Like, he completely took over the game, Morgan, like 2 home runs, and then jumped on the mound. Nobody really knew he could pitch. And he was like 91. To close the game out. He's not going to pitch there, but it just kind of shows like the 5-tool player that he is. I mean, he can do it all. It just kind of shows like the 5-tool player that he is. I mean, he can do it all.
Well, only thing I know about him really, other than his football career, is I did see a lot of highlights last year in just a limited amount of time that he played towards the end of the season. So I do feel like he has a lot of hype around him. I think he's very good at the plate. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Again, number 16, Will Taylor. He's one of those guys, would you say, is one of those guys that Clemson needs to rely on going into next season? There's another guy there as well, and that is Cooper Ingle. And like I said, a big fan of the show, a guy that we definitely wanted to highlight, somebody that you are familiar with. I believe, has he not?
He played in our organization at 16 and 17. He played for Coach Petty's team. He's another one, with both of these guys. For Clemson to have a very successful year, these two guys have to produce. Cooper, the numbers right there. Anytime you hit over 300, has 8 home runs and things like that. But what he can really do is the most important position is really catch and demand respect from his pitchers, controls the game. Every time I always laugh, like, he's so good, in between innings, when you're watching games, that's usually a time for someone to take a break or go to the restroom or go to the concession stand. But Cooper's that guy I would always stay and watch because you got a chance to watch him throw to second base. And it's pretty special, his arm strength. So expect for him to have a big season. It's pretty special, his arm strength. So expect for him to have a big season. Yeah, I think, when me and Big Al did the show 2 years ago, a lot of the names that we're saying now are guys that were a part of that roster. And even that we haven't said, that we haven't mentioned yet, there is a lot of experience on this team. I think that's going to be a huge strength. I think their preparation this offseason is going to be big. And, we talked about, what were they, preseason 4th or 5th, I believe you said, in the division. So you can almost go into the season, with nothing to lose. I think from a national perspective, this is a team that, may not be getting much attention, but I think, as the pieces come together and, everybody kind of fills into their roles. This is a team that has a chance to have a very good year, which is tough to do year one, but, with what Coach Bakich has done to prepare these guys, I think it could definitely happen. So, to wrap it up, as far as that goes, just the experience is going to be a huge key. And also, this is something I keep jumping back, is, there's 2 guys that transferred in from Michigan, so they do have some postseason experience, that's been to Omaha and things like that. Transferred in from Michigan, so they do have some postseason experience, that's been to Omaha and things like that.
Speaking of Omaha, that was the thing I had posted up right after this in our next topic, and that is the College World Series. I was big time just bragging about the softball team because they are projected to be one of those teams to make it to the College World Series right now because of those transfer players that they've brought in that are good and already in the lineup and starting and really contributing and bringing a unique piece to the pie that Clemson really on the softball team had been missing. And as you mentioned, Eric Bakich brings some guy from Michigan that have obviously just recently come off of having a stint in the postseason. Clemson has an expectation. I know this. I don't know much about baseball, but what I know is it's not an accident that Omaha is on the back of their hat. And that's because that is what the expectation is every single year. You can see the College Baseball World Series years there, 1958, 1959, 1976, 1977, 1980. They had 3 in 1990s, 91, 95, 96. They had 3 in the early 2000s, 2000, 2002, 2006. And their very last one so far is 2010. So they really want to get back to that and add another banner up there of getting to the College World Series, is probably too much of an expectation this year.
I think so. I mean, I think year in and year out, like you said, I mean, it's on the back of the hat. I think it is baseball. Anything can happen. And, I mean, I know that that's their having for, and they're going to do what they can to make sure that happens, to make sure that's a reality for the fans. And they're going to do what they can to make sure that happens, to make sure that's a reality for the fans.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. Obviously, Eric Bakich is also looking forward to it. He said, quote, to the media recently, "We can feel it. The season's almost here. For a lot of reasons, we're really excited to help return Clemson baseball to where it belongs. On top of college baseball, I want them to have an understanding that there have been a lot of great teams and a lot of great players that have come before them, and we're just standing on their shoulders and trying to add as much value to an already storied program as possible." Ryan Emmons comes out and says, "We're a confident group. We expect to come in and win every game we play, and we'll succeed a lot. We just got to put the work in and the time that we spent together as a team. I think it separates us from a lot of groups."
It's completely frozen.
You're back. You're back. You froze up there
now?
A little bit, but you are back in, Corey. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
I can hear you. Yes, you're back in. So you're all good. You froze a little bit on our end, but that's all good. So again, it seems like the guys like Ryan Emmons, guys like Caden Grice, Eric Bakich, they seem to be very confident in what they can do this season. And as you mentioned, winning 2 out of 3 every weekend is not out of the realm of possibility for them in their mind, because they're saying, hey, we're going to win every single game, that we're going to go in wanting to win every single game. I look forward to the season. I think it's exciting. That's all I had for baseball. Before I let you go, because we're at 7:50, and I don't want to keep you longer than the hour, but I got a picture up here, because I had to show you some love, man. You are a Georgia Bulldog fan. And I know the chat's already just blowing up about that. I'm not even going to read it, because this might be the only time I've ever had a Georgia photo up, especially a Stetson Bennett photo up on the show. 4 years now, I have not highlighted the dogs. Don't make me bark. I will not do it. I can't do it. But
yep, appreciate it. Well, Georgia I didn't win it, but yeah, it was cool to follow.
Chips.
Yeah, we went to we made the trip to Kentucky for one of the coldest games I've ever been in, and then obviously, I was fortunate enough to be able to score some tickets to go to the Peach Bowl, so that was pretty cool.
Well, in that case, I mean, you were a part of the team. You were there. You were cheering them on. You were helping them through. I mean, you deserve a ring just as much as those guys. I'll be honest with you. They just don't make enough rings. That's the problem. But going into this season, obviously the schedule shapes up again, which looks like one of those very difficult SEC schedules where you have to play like Vanderbilt and Auburn, and you just get those really tough teams. But Georgia seems to be heat up again for a very good run in their schedule. I think they have a good schedule that they can win this thing again. The question is, who's?
I think it's Carson Beck. I mean, he's kind of been around. With the coordinator change, but I think he's seasoned enough and is familiar enough with the offense to be able to jump right in. We were fortunate enough to get a little sneak peek of him in the national championship, which is huge as well. Just anytime you can get those young players, even though the game is as lopsided as it is, to get them on that stage, I think that's definitely big. The game is as lopsided as it is, to get them on that stage, I think that's definitely big.
Well, I know you're looking forward to the season coming up. Obviously, there's a lot of time left, but thank you so much for getting in. Hey, I'm going to finish off with my softball pitch here. It says, I got to put up our stud, our superstar, Valerie Cagle. I got to finish the show with this. I'm going to go to the game this Friday, 3 p.m. I'm going to take my daughter to that game. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, they play Northwestern, is a team that made it to the Women's College World Series. Valerie and the team last season got beat out by Oklahoma State in the regional, so they didn't make it to the World Series, but that's where they want to go and get to. And it starts with the ACC Big Ten championship game to fight through it. They're going to play a top 15 team in Northwestern on Friday and Saturday, and then a doubleheader on Saturday against Ohio State, who's a team that made it into, I believe, it's not the, I want to say not the regionals, but whatever right before. Yeah, I think maybe it was the regionals for Ohio State as well. So again, two teams that Clemson's going to have to face that are going to be teams that have also made it as far as Clemson. So I'm excited to see and go be a part of the game and watch it this weekend. Corey, that's it, man. At Coach Corey Welch over on Twitter. Go get.
I mean, enjoy it. I mean, you should be excited. I mean, I look at it as kind of Christmas Eve. There's nothing better than opening day, and it's a great time for Clemson right now in baseball. Coach Bakich and his staff's coming in, getting started. Hopefully winning 2 out of 3, or as Morgan expects, is a sweep. So anytime you can get off on the right foot and get going, and we know in a couple of weeks the Gamecocks are coming. For that series, and then you jump right into conference play. So these games are important too, for these guys to get their feet wet and get familiar. But, you want them to be ready when the stakes kind of increase here in a couple of weeks.
Well, thank you again, at Coach Corey Welch. Go give him a follow over on Twitter. And if you missed any part of the show for our baseball preview, please make sure.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Morgan.
After Corey, have a good night, man.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Morgan.
Again, that was Corey Welch. Coach Corey Welch over on Twitter. Thank you again for coming in and being a part of the show every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. The Morgan Thomas Show over on Twitter and YouTube and on Instagram as well, even though I don't post as much there. I appreciate everybody being a part of the show. Tiger Paw says, see you at McWhorter Stadium tomorrow, Morgan. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am looking forward to the game and seeing the girls out there. I'm really excited for it and going into it. Now, we're going to continue with the show. We have a couple more minutes left, so I wanted to get in and continue to talk to you guys and see if you had anything else that you wanted to mention in. We have a couple people still in the chat. Get in the chat, ask some questions, let me know, and let's continue the show. Let's keep talking about whatever you want to talk about and be a part of the show. It seems like people got, obviously, Cade Klubnik's got some discussion in there as well. Beat the Gamecocks also as well. Clemson versus Northwestern, number 11 in the nation. Tiggs is saying stomp the fleas off the Bulldogs. Well, you know what? When you have a guest on, you want to make sure that you respect the guest and talk about their favorite team. I want to, make sure that I make them feel welcome when they're a part of the show. But I really appreciate Coach Corey Welch getting in as well. And mate, you know what? Actually, there's a rumor out there. His daughter is 8 and under softball this year as well. And, I'm coaching Fountain Inn's 8 and under softball this season. So maybe, just maybe, our daughters will be on the same team going in the spring league. But, yeah, get in the chat. Let me know what you think and we will kind of just go through everything. Again, I'm excited for baseball. My question to you guys in the chat, are you going to go to the softball game and listen to the baseball game, or are you going to do vice versa? Are you going to go to the baseball game and catch the softball game maybe on ACC NX on your phone? Or maybe you're going to bounce between the two. What are you going to do? Let me know in the chat. I would really be interested to see what you guys have to say. Again, Clemson baseball team playing Binghamton this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Doug Kingsmore Stadium. Looking forward to that. And then after that, let me look at the schedule here. So this weekend, Binghamton, and then Tuesday in your midweek game, they have Charlotte, 4 p.m. on Tuesday the 21st, and then they have a series again at home. Hosting UCF, that's Central Florida there. Interesting to see how baseball is going to go because I'm still kind of getting used to it. I don't know all the players, but I'm excited about how the team is going to shake out. Tiger Paw 1987 gets in and says, who's going to be our next football commitment? And he also mentions and said he's going to the softball game and then go see the first pitch of baseball and then back to softball. I think that's a good way to do it as well. Maybe kind of bounce between the two if you can do that. Who's going to be the next football commitment? Well, I really don't know. It's been kind of a dead period right now. I'm interested to see how Clemson does things. I think it'll kind of pick up more when they get back into spring practice and then when they get into the spring game. I think when they start hosting people more, to me, it feels like the excitement starts to load up more when you're doing the all-in cookout, when you're doing, the events in May and in April. That's when it really kind of picks back up. And if you look at Clemson seems to really be pushing hard to do those June visits as kind of your last effort. Anybody who missed out on the January Elite Junior Day, they want to invite them to camps and official visits during June. And if you remember this past June, they got commitments like back-to-back, two every single week. It seemed like a commitment here and there for the football team. I'm interested to see. I think a lot of discussion is around offensive linemen, if there will be another offensive lineman coming in. They obviously want to get 3 or 4. I think even Paul Strelo said this morning they're looking to get 4. But yeah, speculate on who they could get next would be, to me, very difficult, to be honest with you. Tiggs gets in and says, how are we doing on the roster? Still over by 3. Yeah, that is true. They are still over by 3 at 88 overall out of the 85 total allowed on the roster. Now, Dabo Swinney has come out and said, well, that's not too bad because they have 3 walk-ons. They have Hunter Helms, who is a walk-on who actually decided to stay with the program. So to me, it would be very unfortunate if he loses his scholarship after deciding to stay with the program. And then you have Dominique Thomas, who's a guy who has been through a ton in his lifetime and a big-time Clemson fan, got his opportunity last year, got a scholarship last year. Nothing is promised tomorrow. Quadzilla, as C.J. Spiller calls him, maybe not going to have a scholarship. We'll see how it goes. Who knows? And then the other walk-on that Clemson could, manage with the roster is Holden Casperson. He's the long snapper, and he is also a former walk-on as well. So they are at 88, but they also have 3 that they could manage, their scholarship. And to be honest with you, I've had this discussion with many people about it. In today's world of NIL, who's to say that you need a scholarship anymore? I mean, that's my question to you. Who's to say you really need a scholarship anymore if you can just give them money for marketing? You tell them to go do this effort and you pay them back an equal amount to what they have lost in their scholarship. So to me, why do teams have 85 anymore? The teams that have the most money could have way more than 85. These players, if they have people that have a lot of money that can pay the equivalent of a scholarship, why would a player need to have a scholarship through the school? That's a question for another day, maybe. That's a question for the new world of college football. It's interesting to see. I'm curious to see what will happen going forward with the world of NIL. It's I'm very curious. I don't know how it's all going to shake out, but very curious to see what happens in the future. Again, do they really necessarily need to even have scholarships, or the school at least supply them? I don't know. It's hard to say. Hard to say. Hey, thank you so much for getting in and being a part of the show. It's 8 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap it up here. Again, I appreciate every single one of you getting into the chat, hitting the like button, and subscribing over on YouTube. More videos to come. I promise, I promise, I promise. And always, Tiger fans, again, I appreciate everyone getting in. Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Before I get out, Big Al is calling me. Big Al, you are live on the show, Big Al.
I'll tell you another place that's pretty bad. I hope you're kidding.
I am not kidding. You are live right now.
Well, I need you to unlive me. I need you to get me a phone number. You got me a phone number?
All right. Well, Alan is needing me to end the show. So we're going to end the show, everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of the show again. And we'll see you, Tiger fans,